You see images and the trees, and you see faces. So basically, this work is like that. You can see things in it, but I don't close on any particular image. I may
someone else could see things, but different things.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's that kind of subjectivity.
Yeah.
But
then with the comic book, I mean, it's nice that it so incorporates the, like the techniques is very incorporated in the ideas, right, in the concept.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's a particular kind of, for me, you know, I'm kind of interested in the history of drawing in the 20th century, and for me, the biggest change in art was the inclusion of comic book art or illustration art, because the mark is what you might call a denotative mark. It's almost a universal language. You know what I'm saying? So a certain kind of mark suggests automatically waves or energy. Or,
Yes.
So
I mean, I relate to what you're saying in terms of Oriental art. You know.
Yeah. It is. It's like to say. Of course, a sumi drawing is really a piece of calligraphy, right? So it has that level of denotation.
Yes.
But this is a kind of denotation, just the way the mark is made, because it's like it become a global. Really, kids. Say a kid in Timbuktu could understand the same thing as a kid in New York in comic books, because it's universal, it's a global thing now.
Yeah.
It's so ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my idea.
Yeah,
but I've been working on trying to do two kinds of space here. Kind of deep space, which you have in illustration, like it's based on Renaissance art. And the flat space of modernism, so have the two operating at once. So in that kind of space, and that's in the little ones as well, in that kind of space, you really have a kind of all space and no space, as it were. Some of the things, this is what I've been putting together. I think I put this up here where the light is. Now when I show these, there's always magnifying glass, so you can, because I want, it's important to, in viewing these, like miniature, it's important to view them as a topography, a kind of a landscape in themselves.
Yes.
So it's kind of an imaginary scale change that the viewer is invited to take, as it were. Yeah. And that's the sort of the nature of the miniature to me. It's like a book. And the peoples of the book, the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims at some periods were the book, especially during the iconoclastic periods, and of course Islam is still iconoclastic, the book is the main thing. So the energy of the book is like that. It's around the head. It's not the wall, which is a relationship with your whole body in a certain way.
It's interesting because I don't relate to miniatures. Well, I say that I could, but I'm talking personal taste.
Right, of course.
Little things.
Yeah.
I've always said it in a blasé way like that because I like things that challenge my body size.
Right. Yeah.
This is just on a personal level.
Have you been a dancer in your life? Because you have a dancer's look.
I was when I was really young.
Yeah. So dancers have that. They want to, like Jo Lachey. She's like,
that's right.
She's a dancer, so she wants to have the big gesture.
Yeah.
But the miniature is
a different thing.
It is. Yeah. It's a different kind of energy.
But in a way, see, to me, these aren't miniatures. But they are in a way, but because they do keep a bigger space. Don't they? They do to me.
Yeah.
Like I can stand here and anyway, it's a silly. It isn't an argument. I wasn't.
No. I understand. Totally. Totally understand. Yeah. and let's see.
There's many layers, right? Many layers.
Yes, a lot of the.
And you don't work with a. Do you work with a magnifying?
I use a magnifying glass to kind of check the forms. See, what I'm doing in most of these is trying to make each of these figures autonomous. So I want them to be, autonomous or things in themselves.
Yes. Yes.
So I want them to be formally coherent.
Yes.
Like a
I
gestalt.
understand what you're saying. Yes.
So to check them, I use a magnifying glass.
Right.
But I don't want to start using magnifying glass all the time. I don't think it's good for your eyes. Some of these were, some of these are more like regular paintings, but they're still based on the individual figure, like developing the figures carefully, like as an illustration, but not an illustration of something. Let me think. Oh, here's one that is more like a piece of illustration. This one.
They're so unique. They're so unique each to each other. Don't you find that, King?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do an installation in a sort of darkened room with a lot of. I've got some different kinds of lighting here, like including an LED magnifying light.
Oh wow.
And if you look at that one up close,
This one?
you'll see that this goes along the science fiction illustration.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
Forms. Yeah. It's also related to surrealism because they're improvisations, but they're improvisations done fairly deliberately, as it were.
Well, because you've done so many, it's
Yeah.
well, it's your own vocabulary, isn't it?
That's
You
right.
know it, and you can,
yeah, exactly.
which is fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic for the. I see what you mean about it bad for your eyes. It'll start to get.
Well,
But I mean, it's so fantastic to see such a group of work together, because it just makes the viewer aware of the depth of the work, because they're so varied. It's not like one repeats another at all, right?
Right.
Well,
Well, it's not a series. I understand
that.
because I'm not working serially on it.
No.
It's like they're like painting in the sense that they're improvised. So when you improvise, they're going to be different.
Yeah.
Because really, basically, what improvisation it's like improvisation in music. Somebody plays a note, and you respond to that note, right?
Yes.
So you make a figure like that, like this little figure here. So according to what the surface suggests, because I usually start with some surface, some
I was going to ask how.
I did a bunch starting with a colograph,
Right.
using a press and objects, wood. So I already had a surface to start with,
Yes.
and then I work freely to start. So like those, kind of freely,
Yeah.
with different kind of mark making, and gradually, these figures
Emerge.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like that. It's very absorbing. It's like, and in fact, that's.
Are they time consuming?
They take I do maybe 7 in the winter. I work every day.
And you're here every day for a couple of hours, aren't you?
Yeah, 2 or 3 hours every day. Right. Yeah. So, I call it n-dimensional space. My other, yeah, because it's like the space, what is that space? You know,
Yes.
you could
yeah.
see it as a microcosm, you could see it as a macrocosm.
Yes.
You could see it, you could imagine it as infinity even.
Yes,
Because you can
yes,
travel
totally.
back and back and back.
Yes, they strike me that way, yeah.
You know? And I have a kind of pretentious title for the group, which I may not use. I call it SDF, Studies for the Devolution of Forms, because I have theory that here the forms are devolving into images, and the images devolve back into forms. So the images are figures that are images, but they're also forms. You know, I mean, a Gestalt sense. So there's a kind of formalism in a certain way. And also, in the history of modernism, really, forms have devolved in the biological sense. They've decayed. Because that was the nature of modernism, was to destroy the art from before.
Yeah. No, I'm
Do you know what I'm
understanding
saying?
you totally. No,
Right.
I do know what you're
Yeah,
saying. No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I know what you're saying.
So,
And the idea of devolving to form something,
Yeah.
I understand. I
Right,
get it.
right,
No, I
right,
understand
right.
it.
And into pure color and then into pure ideas.
yeah, and the ideas are free floating.
Mm-hmm.
So they're out there for anybody to make what they want of them. There's nothing determinate about this stuff.
Well, to me, what's determinant about it, though, is the process. You know,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
really believe that the process controls a lot invisibly.
Absolutely.
You know,
No,
which
that's
is
very
sort
true.
of your job.
That's right. And the process.
And you don't need to.
and
people
that's an aesthetic too.
It's totally. Oh yeah.
It's an
yeah,
aesthetic.
yeah.
And this is why another reason I supply magnifying glasses, because that you can get a more dramatic sense of the process to the surface working.
And I think, then it seems to me, like, to use your vocabulary, the more experienced an artist gets, and if he continues his work, and there's a loyalty to the process,
Yeah.
Like you
well, there's
can't short-circuit it or
No,
make it
no,
faster or make it
no, you
quicker. You
can't.
understand
No,
what I
it's-
mean?
It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like manufacture.
From an architectural point of view, a lot of the ideas that I work with, one of the biggest ones is, that in a very simple way, through historic spaces, well-made spaces that were made for a function. Hundreds of years later, you will find people in those spaces doing exactly the same thing that function was made for.
Right.
Like in a different, and it isn't that it's, this was made for military marching and now they're military marching
Right.
today. No, it isn't that.
No.
It's just that you understand exactly what
Absolutely,
I'm saying.
especially
And they know,
yeah,
somehow
yeah.
they just know it was made for that.
Sure. Like in the Alhambra, there's a room. Have you been there?
No.
You can't see it now because it's crammed with people, but back in the 60s you could actually see it. There's a room, I guess it was a dancing room, where it's tuned to a full octave from the outside to the center. So it makes a noise as you step, a full octave. So that's an example of what you're saying.
Yeah, totally.